Yeah. Okay, let's talk about it. Hello brothers and sisters, my name is Daidarius and welcome to the review of They Shall Not Grow Old. So They Shall Not Grow Old is a weird movie. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's hard to describe. Roughly speaking, this movie takes you on a journey from when these soldiers got enlisted, their journey throughout the war and until they got home after the war. That's basically this movie. So let's talk about it. Firstly, this movie is not what I expected. But then again, I didn't know what to expect of this movie. Most of us had heard that Peter Jackson, who directed this movie, restored some old World War I footages, cleaned them up, put some color on them, put some sound on them to bring them back to life so we would not forget them. But how can you make a whole movie, a 2-hour movie basically, but just watching those clips? Well, I haven't really researched this, but I'm guessing over 100 video or audio tapes from the 60s and 70s would be my guess of the veterans of the World War I. So they have done some interviews and told their experience throughout this World War. Peter Jackson then taken these video clips and these audio clips and mixed them together so that it creates a coherent story from where the World War started and they got enlisted, their training, their experience with the war as the war went on, the conclusion of the war, and then when they got home. Only by clips. So that is the movie. You only see these clips and you also see some posters, propaganda posters, and then there's just these different men telling you their experiences throughout the war. And that is it. That is all you're getting. Well, it's not all you're getting, but that is the movie summed up. That is how the movie functions. There's no intervention with Peter Jackson or his crew. There's nothing else except these World War I clips. Oh, shit. These World War I clips and this audio of men who experienced the First World War. So what did I like about this movie? First of all, I like the way it told the story. The movie starts out with the ratio what you expected of movie clips coming out in the 1940s to 1980s, 18s. The 1914 to 1918. So it is square with the round edges. And it goes on like that for, I will guess, 20 minutes or so. And you just hear these old men telling that they lied about their age to get into training. They trained and they got through the physical training and they get sent off to France to the World War. And you're sitting there and wondering, am I seeing the wrong movie? Where's the touched up thing? Then you get to the war. And suddenly the ratio gets widened to 21:9 and the color gets put on and the sound gets put on and it smacks you into the war. And when the war ends, it gets back to that ratio. And I have a feeling I know why. Now this is just my take on it. But when you're back home in England, no one has any idea what war is like. No one has even put any thought to it. It's something's happening far away. So they see things as black and white. They see it is us versus the enemy. And the enemy is the evil one. The Germans in this case was the evil bastards. They are the enemy. They are tyrants. They are monsters. They need to be put down. Then you get to the war and you find out it is not that black and white. It's not even grayish. It is just men against men who has the same ideology, who's just been put there because they want to fight wars, because it has been over what's almost 100 years since countries have been fighting each other in Europe. Everyone has forgotten how terrible war is. And when the war has ended and these men get sent back home, again, the people at home cannot relate to this war. They always see it as black and white. It was our men versus them. They don't want to think about those pish-posh things. And hell, even some of these men experienced that when they got home, they met one of their friends at the baker or something. And their friend behind the desk asked them, where have you been these past years? Fighting a fucking war, you idiot. So it goes back to black and white. I'm sure that's not the whole reason why he chose only to color grade and fix up the war part, but I'm pretty sure that this is one of the reasons. And also when you have these touched up photos with sound and you have these men telling you their experience of those situations you are watching on screen, it actually does a really decent job at putting you on the front line in the First World War. It makes you feel what they feel, and it makes you panic when they turn up the volume because things explode all around you. And this movie doesn't shy away to show you death. I mean, do be warned. If you cannot stomach death or people getting killed, do not watch this movie, because you will see bodies color graded to be men who are decomposing and who has their guts spilled out. Hell, there's even one scene where you see a shotgun grenade, which, in case you don't know, is a grenade that explodes in the air and then it just rains shrapnel down upon whoever is unlucky to be there. And you see a shotgun grenade go off in the air and it just explodes on the ground where there are people or soldiers writing. You then see a smoke screen. You don't see people get killed, but when the smoke screen clears, you see bodies there, you see horses, you even see a horse that's trying to get up, but we are told through the audio that this horse has smoked like it's got cut open completely and was just, suffering before it died, and you just saw bodies there. So it doesn't shy away from it, and I actually applaud the movie for this, because this movie is going through great length to color war as it is. It is not fancy, it is not glory, it is not respectable, it is not honorable, it is just pure death. There's nothing great about it. War should not be fought. And these men even say that the officers who are behind desk or back in England, they don't know what's happening there. For them, they're just statistics. So they can easily say, well, we need to fight X, Y, and Z, but they don't know the horror it brings. And you quickly get into the mindset of these pure soldiers, because men are getting killed left, right, and center. The bodies are not getting moved. Hell, their feet were rotting because they couldn't get to dry clothes. They couldn't stand up because otherwise they were getting shot by snipers on the enemy team. And then there is the ending of the movie, or getting near to the end, where they're taking in German prisoners. And these men are talking to these prisoners because they don't care about why they're fighting anymore. They don't care about the war. They don't care about anything. They have been emotionally drained. They don't give a shit. They're just doing the job because they have to, but that is it. The war means nothing to them. And they speak to these German soldiers and they are experiencing the same thing. Actually, they're just like them, the same age. Hell, they even have the same background. They just want the war to be over. They just want to go home to their loved one. They just want to go home and don't experience this war anymore. I mean, it just really managed to break down that oftentimes when you have war, the guy on the other side is not a monster. He's not a bad guy. He has just been given the same orders that you have. Shoot the enemy. Shoot the opposing force, but that is it. However, they didn't do a perfect job with the color grading, and it easily shows. You can easily see where they didn't manage to do it correctly. But I won't say that is a bad thing for the movie, because considering the quality of these videos, I mean, it's pretty hard to do a perfect job. Especially if this is a passion project where you're not going to have a studio put in hundreds of millions of dollars. If I have gotten that much money, then this could have been done better. But for what it is, I actually think they managed to do it quite well. The only really problem I have with this movie is the pacing. The pacing is dreadful. It's awful. I was looking at the clock many times because this movie is slow. And since this is pretty much a 2-hour documentary of men talking about their experience through the war, accompanied by images of the war, sometimes it just gets boring. But on the other hand, that's kind of the purpose, because these men was bored to death a lot of times because they couldn't move forward. They couldn't advance their lines. None of the sides could advance the lines. Another thing I wish that Peter Jackson had done, if it was available for him, was to have gotten some German audio clips and some German movies so we could actually get to experience both sides of this conflict. But we didn't. But I really think that this movie would have benefited from it, because again, it doesn't want to draw up the German as monsters or anything. It just wants to draw up what war is really like. The death, the toll it takes on people, and the fact that often they could just fighting their neighbors on the other side. That's how it is. There are men on both sides. So more focus on that would have been great. And also, in my case, subtitles would have been great, because some of these English gentlemen have a really thick accent. So there might be an audio clip of a man talking for 30 or 40 seconds. I wouldn't understand shit. I was just sitting there and enjoying the visuals, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. So subtitles in some parts would have been great. Also because the audio is kind of roughed up. Yes, they have cleaned up the audio. There are limits to how much you can clean up that old audio, especially if it hasn't been taken that well care of while it has been stored away. So and also understand why this movie is slow at some points, because it wants you to feel what they feel, and it wanted to draw it out because this was a war that took 4 years, and these men there telling this story experienced all of those 4 years. I think most of them did, actually. I still think it could have been directed better at some points to actually immerse you more into this historical piece that it is. Now, that being said, this movie doesn't really have many flaws, because how could it? It's just historical visuals where some of it has been touched up, accompanied by audio tapes of those men who experienced this war. This is actually what it is. And the purpose of it is just, as the title says, they shall not grow old. You should not forget what these men went through. And more importantly, you should not glorify war at any point. People who glorify war is just people who haven't really experienced war. Hell, I haven't experienced war, but at least I understand that there's nothing honorable about it. You are murdering people. And I know there might be an enemy. I'm not saying that you shouldn't defend your country or defend people who are weak, but you shouldn't glorify war either. Because what these men tell you at the end of the movie, all of these men tell you, is that there shouldn't be any wars. They have experienced war and they don't want any more wars. Now, I don't see this in an anti-war propaganda. I just see it as a way to show you how war really is. Which might be propaganda now I think about it, but anyway. I'm not trying to preach here, let's end all the wars, because I know that ain't gonna happen. I mean, we have had, 10,000 years of the human race be warring each other. That's gonna stop now. But anyway, this is an uncomfortable movie to watch at a lot of times, especially because it depicts death as it is. It doesn't shy away from it. It doesn't pull its punches. It really shows you how death is, and it even show you some people dying, but not in a dishonorable way of those people dying. Actually, it just puts you there, and it sometimes becomes a snooze fest. I mean, just the beginning of the movie could have been more tightly written, or not written, but directed, put together. But nonetheless, this is a movie everyone needs to watch. It's not the best movie, it doesn't fully accomplish what it set out to do, and doesn't do it in the best way, but nonetheless, it will leave you with something. Mostly disgust. Not for the movie, but for what took place. And again, I think this is a movie everyone needs to watch, because hopefully it would help us understand why we shouldn't repeat story. We should learn from it. So I will say that this movie, They Shall Not Grow Old, you should watch it in cinema. Entertainment not guaranteed, but you need to watch it. So yeah, I'm tweaking the rating right there. But you should really watch this in cinema. You should give it that respect. You need to see it. Trust me. It will probably change your view on wars. Or maybe it will just strengthen your views on wars. I don't know. I don't know. But yes, this is a movie everyone needs to watch. At least once. Because, yeah, it shows you how it really is. I mean, it doesn't matter if it was in 1980 or it was in 2080. War is war, and it is dreadful, and it's not fun to be part of. I'm guessing. Because I haven't experienced war personally. That is just my 2 cents. I'm not going to go into the matter anymore. Again, because I don't know enough about it. But watch this movie. I won't say you won't regret it, but I do think you will be thankful for having that knowledge about how it went down back then. And it's also a fine way to honor these men. But again, I just wish that they depicted the German side also, because it was pretty much the same thing. It often is. It often just a few men with high authority that wants to eradicate another people, and then these men who doesn't really kind of believe it, but want to serve their country, who goes out and fight for the country. So this is the present review, but it kind of fits the movie. I'm sorry. Whatever movie I watch next, I will try to be more upbeat. Maybe it's Captain Marvel. I don't know. We're gonna see. Anyway, They Shall Not Grow Old. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? And what other movie or movies do you think everyone needs to watch because they tell something important? And I don't mean they tell you how you should be you or anything, but kind of like this. It pulls away the bullshit and it just shows you this subject that this movie, whatever movie you pick, is about in the most real way possible. Whatever you think, comment below and read your thoughts. And as always, until I see you in the next video, remember to stay awesome. See ya. I need to go cheer up, man. Holy shit.